All right, we're back. This is probably the fastest we've ever released podcasts between episodes ever. If you have not listened to our last one, go listen to that first and then come
Well,
here.
I'll say, yeah, go listen to it, but at this point, you're already at the point of no return, so.
That's true. So, last time, just to briefly recap, we talked about what to do in in the week leading up to the last month of the drill season. And today, we're going to talk about specifically what we do in the last part of the season to ensure, like we talked about in the previous podcast, that the end of our season 1 is an enjoyable experience for everyone. It sucks to work for a whole year or 4 years and have the last month of your season suck. That's silly.
Last days.
The last days suck. That's silly. Why would we do that or set ourselves up to have that happen? Two, how will we have the best performance? How do we what everyone wants is to give the best performance of their season at the very end when it counts the most. How do we do that? And then I think three is when you have a positive experience at the end of your season, you combat a lot of the burnout that happens as a result of the end of the season. Because I think the drill season's long, but it's compounded when you don't do the right things at the end. And so they say a last impression's a lasting impression. The last impression of the season is that the whole thing was stressful, terrible, and awful. And I guess we have to, if I'm returning to the team next year, I guess we get to do it again. And we get into the cycle where it's real negative and real bitter because of what's happened in the last month and at the last competition of the year. So, what, Kirsten, are teams getting wrong about how to treat the last month of the season? Let's start from that perspective. Before we tell you how to get it right, let's talk about how teams are getting it wrong. What are they doing wrong?
Well, many teams often get to the last month of their season and they try and ramp up. Let's add more practice hours. Let's work harder. Let's try harder.
Add the Saturday practices. We'll come in every Saturday and work.
Right. I think most people try to ramp up. Oh my God, there's so many mistakes. We have to just run through.
Terrible, dude.
Stop and fix, stop and fix, stop and fix, stop and fix. Oh my God, these mistakes. Guys, we only have 2 weeks left until nationals. Why are we still making these mistakes? Oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah.
How can you still be doing this? We're so close. We got all year.
I think they get stressed. I think the thing that most teams do that we try not to do is they get more stressed and more frantic and more amped up. And then when they get to the end, we see so many teams, and even it's not hard to see them. All you have to do is watch.
You can tell who's imploding.
Lots of teams, we see instructors throwing their hands up, throwing things maybe, storming off, kiddos fighting, parents talking, oh, did you see this and that? And I can't believe this and that. Like, it's not hard. All you have to do is sit quietly in a hallway and you will just hear all of this happen.
And now that we've told you, and if you go and do this,
we've probably seen it happen.
It's that glass shattering moment. You'll always see it happen. And then you'll know that this is a real stressful experience. So if that is the norm, I think for many groups, right? Unless you're having I think that doesn't happen when you're having a quote unquote good season. And so then you just have to rely on having good seasons to have good ends of the years.
Well, and then I think then what often happens is like this is the best season we have, and then we got to the performance, and then they just did the worst performance they've ever done.
There were mistakes happening that never showed up, like just crazy stuff. So on the flip side, then let's talk about what we should be doing, and let's go like 10,000 foot down to like at practice. So if the goal is to not be stressed, I think the most important thing to say about the last month is everyone on the team, from the newest freshman member through the JRTC instructor, right, and everyone in between, needs to make a conscious choice that the mission of the last month is to minimize stress to only the most actionably essential or safety revolving type stress, right? We're not talking about throwing accountability out the window. We're not talking about letting things that are unsafe go without accountability.
Well, you're still going to practice.
You're still doing, yeah.
You're supposed to do your uniform.
But you know what? The second squad not being aligned halfway through the car is no longer a priority.
Okay, a month out from your national competition, if they're not aligned, they know they're not aligned.
And by calling it out, right, You may think that you're addressing the issue, but what are you introducing to the equation? More stress. And again, what's the goal of the last month? Eliminate stress, right? You have and this is just scientific sports, performing arts stuff, is like you have your best performances when you're the least stressed out. So I think that from the 10,000 foot level, everyone's got to do this on purpose, because the pressure of the competition, the closing of the year, and the running out of time. I mean, people do crazy things when the time seems to be running out, right?
Like add more.
You like trying to get more in there. You have to try on purpose. And 100% of people agree that the goal of what we're trying to accomplish is a stress reduced scenario where we're only stressing about things that pop high enough on the list to be a like safety or accountability type thing, right? So I think that's the 10,000 foot view. As you zoom into what should happen the last month, let's talk about, because we've recapped this before and you can hear all these. We're going to talk about it again because it's very important.
Probably logistically next.
Yeah. What needs to happen in the last month concerning the organization and logistics of your gear, stuff, uniforms, everything that goes into the background. Because again, talking about reducing stress, the number one thing, what do you think more teams at competition stress out about than anything else? I guarantee if it's not infighting between people who are already on edge and kind of like a little bit wired, it's definitely uniforms and equipment.
It's forgetting stuff. It's not having the right things. It's having left stuff at home.
Instructor friends, if you want to not stress out about, I can't believe my students forgot the rifles, the covers. I don't know.
You should be checking that yourself. I think, oh my gosh, I think the number one thing that I would say logistically is instructors. I know that junior RTC is a cadet-led program. If you're going to a national competition and you want them to do well, that is way too much to leave up to them to fail or succeed.
In this last month, we are, yes, and I will say this.
Don't do everything for them.
No, for the last 3 years, the students did a great deal on the competition uniforms, but adults help them organize that process. This is the time.
At every top-level school, the adults are as involved as the students.
There is no, the kids are just going to get it or they're not going to get it.
And if they fail, you're setting them up for failure.
So in this last month, the goal is we need to be finalizing all of this stuff. In other words, not waiting until the end to get it done. We need to be going through and using all the available free time. And when we're going to tell you this, and some of you out there that know the top level of competition are going to be like, yeah, of course. And some of you are going to be like, wait, people are doing that. Every moment at a top, and we're talking about competing successfully at a national level. In the last month at a national level team, any junior ROTC time, any study hall time, any lunch time, any free time of any sort, whether it's classroom junior ROTC time or otherwise, is being put towards the logistical effort. Why? Because at practice, you will not have, this isn't things, you will have a time, we're going to talk about that, but it's not stuff that we wait till after school to do. It's every available piece of downtime that's not academically prioritized.
And we're in the final month and a half of school for some of you too, is like, at least in junior ROTC, besides like inspection day where you probably need them to like be doing the inspections for the class, there's probably not that much more
academic type work for them to do. This is when it switches over, because again, if you invested $30,000 to $50,000 in competing successfully, this is the time to get everyone on the same page and get things organized during the school day.
Things that you need to be, if you have not started uniforms, start them tomorrow. This basically the beginning of this week. They need to stop wearing their uniforms if it's their everyday uniform that they wear in class. You need to start doing the uniforms right now. Make uniform teams. What we would tell you is don't have everyone do their individual uniform. Instead, split everyone into teams where they have responsibilities.
So you have people doing all the ribbons for all the male uniforms, people doing all the ribbons for the female uniforms. You got people doing the name tags. You got people doing the J bars. You got shoe shining.
Look at who you have across your class periods. That way you can have people working every period on these things versus it just being one small bit of time in the day.
And this will require you to get creative, right? We're talking about what to do to compete at a high level in the last month. It will require you to get creative with who's going to be involved in what tasks. Because it's kind of like a constant ongoing thing.
Start making little tackle boxes of like extra ranks.
The number one thing people stress out about is, oh my goodness, we ran out of this and I ran out of this thing and now I can't find it.
Oh, my rank broke because you're practicing color guard and your slings catches on the rank and it pulls it off
And
the
a
uniform.
moment before you go on, you realize there's no other ranks, and what are you going to do? And oh no, now you can't have your best color guard run stressed out about a thing on your column.
You
It
know,
doesn't make sense.
double check your shoes. Make sure everybody has the right shoes in the right sizes.
We would recommend a lot of the multi-stage checklists in this last month. So in other words, when an item physically arrives, it gets a check. When the item has been prepared to whatever item, whatever we're talking about, whether it's putting ribbons on the jacket, it gets a check.
When it's been double checked, it
Then
gets
somebody
checked.
comes around and it's the instructor or a senior type person.
When it goes into your packing box.
So now it's checked again. And I will say this is the most interesting thing is in this last month, especially as we got towards the end, they didn't seal the boxes. Our uniform cadets would go in and they just do and it takes 30 seconds once it's done. Look in that box and make sure no one accidentally dug in there to find an extra something that they needed for class. Double check to make sure on a regular basis that everything that went into that box is still in there. And then right before you go to load up the bus or get on the plane or however you're getting to this thing, one more check that it's in there before it gets sealed and goes on the physical transportation.
If you're going to clean your rifles or put new slings on it, do it right now.
People wait until they get the week out. Do not do
But
that.
the problem is if you do it the week out or even when you're there at whatever competition you're going to be at, it feels different. The slings aren't broken in, the rifles are
We
slippery.
made that mistake once, and it was before the Marine Corps Nationals 2 years.
And then we just ended up using the old dirty stuff because they were way more likely to drop using the new clean stuff.
We had brand new slings in, so okay, we're gonna change the slings over, and they picked them up and they were like, "This sucks," and we switched the slings back or used the practice rifles or whatever, and
So,
it was just
if you're gonna put new
time.
stuff,
Yeah.
do it now, and then just make sure wash your hands before and after to keep it clean. But you want to get a little bit, honestly, of dirt and grip on it.
I'll tell you the super secret, gross secret, especially for your armed exhibition friends out there. In the last week, we stopped cleaning the rifles, the armed X rifles in
Last week.
particular. The last week, right? The last week.
Not right now.
We stopped cleaning them. And I'm not going to say don't wash your hands,
Well, wash your hands after at least.
but wash your hands after because you're going to build up a natural tackiness on those rifles that's going to feel good and sticky and familiar in your hands, as gross as that sounds. A lot of people make the mistake of cleaning their equipment down to sterilized levels, and then it
But
feels
do that
natural.
this week.
Yeah, clean it all up.
Buff,
put it all-
if you have colored stocks, buff them out and get them clean now. If
And
you're gonna
that
change
way-
the slings to
do that now, so there's a break-in period. That's all month out stuff, not week out, not at the competition.
if you're gonna put new rubber butt plates on, do it now because you're gonna want to break those in a little bit because new rubber butt plates can be hard.
And all of this, right, can be done pretty efficiently. And it's not an excessive amount of work, but what it will do, it's just okay, so everyone knows there's two kinds of people out there. There are kinds of, you have a vacation coming up or a trip coming up. There are the people whose suitcase is packed with everything in an orderly packing cube and set aside a month before the trip, and that way they feel really comfortable. And if they forget something, they have a month left to remember to put it in their suitcase. And then there's people that put everything in the suitcase the night before.
That's me.
I'm the first kind, and Kirsten's saying those people marry each other, by the way. But the point is, you want to be the kind of person that a month out you're already packed.
Well, and I always forget things, and we always end up buying stuff on the trip. And so I think in this case, it's easier to assume that we're all going to be the people that forget stuff. And that's why it's not just one person doing it. Do it as a group, as a unit, be the people that pack early.
And that way, you realize, oh, I forgot that we needed this, and now it's already okay. So now all we have to do is we can put it in there, and you still have 2 weeks to not forget.
And our goal when we start this process now here at the beginning of the month is to be done basically about a week and a half before you're leaving.
Imagine that the plane or the bus is leaving a week and a half prior to when it really is, and that's your real deadline for getting it done.
And that's why we say start now. That way you don't have to rush. Because when you rush, you're more likely to put things on the wrong side or forget things or leave things behind or not pack things or pack something and then pull something out because you needed it. The goal is to leisurely have basically about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
When I picture this, there's some music playing in the background. Everyone's just kind of moving and doing their thing.
The
It's real
goal is
relaxed,
to
too.
basically have a nice, relaxed, long process to put things where they need to be. Because also when you're relaxed, you're going to be less likely to miss things whenever you have time to go through all the lists and say, well, we don't have time, just skip that. if you have the time and you don't skip the things, you're probably not going to forget things. The amount of times when we're at a national competition, and because we know a lot of people come up, oh gosh, guys, we forgot our harness. Can you help us find a team who can let us borrow a
So
harness?
I'm texting 15 other instructors, and they're all master sergeants in my phone, by the way, about, hey, can we get a harness? And then, like, at the 11th hour, somebody has an extra one that they can spare. But that was a really stressful experience for that team.
So if you do that now, is you're gonna have time, and the goal is again not to rush it. You have a whole two, and if you start now, you'll have about 2.5 weeks to take your time and make sure that everything is where it needs to be. That you have extras of stuff, and if you realize, oh, we don't have extras, we don't have time to order them, but let's ask around at some of the units around us and see if they've got extras.
It's enough time to figure out how to solve the issues that you may be facing. Um, and I think in doing that, I'm talking about the ultimate goal is reducing the stress. When you put everything in the ROTC area in the corner of the room or in the supply room a week and a half out from your actual departure day, and all you're doing in the last week and a half is just making sure it's all still there.
Well, and that gives you time too, is like to make the list of what's in every box. So that way, when you get there, it's not like, oh my God, I don't know where everything is. Now we're pulling everything out of our boxes. And now you go into your room or space, and then it's like a mess. And then you don't know where, and then that's when you're going to lose things, even if you brought them.
You know what I will tell you is in the last week, for the last 3 years, the people that the leaders who were in charge of getting things loaded, offloaded, staged, and all that kind of stuff on the team, that last week and a half, they had freedom to assign people to which specific boxes were their responsibility, not get those boxes finished to begin with, which is I think where most people they never get to the point where you can just say, hey, you and you are always going to move this same inspection rolling toolbox, right?
So I think for the logistics, start now, finish about a week and a half before you need to leave, a week and that gives you, if there's stuff and you have to finish the day before.
Oh, now that's only small things and it's not as stressful.
But the goal is a week and a half before you leave. That way, if for some reason you need that week and a half time to fix something, you have time.
Yep.
So I would say logistically, start now.
Absolutely. So then let's talk about on a practicing front. So that's again we're going big picture.
I think
to
not
small.
practice yet. I think the next thing would be we're gonna do a whole podcast on this. But I would say the next thing you need to do here at the beginning of the week is get with your team, sit down probably during class, and let's find out what tests and major assignments are due between right now and when you need to leave, and make them go through every single class. So like do this during a class period where you already have them and there's nothing else to do, and make everybody sit down and go through every single one of their classes.
Every major
Just go online and just print out a month, because it's only a month. Print out a little calendar or little planner pages and go through right now, because I think some of the other things that tend to happen in this last time is we're more likely to miss things grade-wise.
I do not want you at the final bus ride leading into the final meet of the year to be so stressed because you let all your physics homework build up.
Sometimes,
Just thinking
I
about
was gonna say, depending on the school, when some of the schools that like do the 3-week periods, is you could still lose or gain eligibility for some of these. I know for some places around the country. Is let's help them, and by going and again, your kiddos might be like, oh, we don't need this. Yes, they do.
everyone needs it.
They absolutely do. We had no people fail at College Park in the last year that we were there when we did the planners. We're not going to talk about it because we're going to do a whole podcast. But
And I think that talking about creating space and talking about creating a lack of stress, academics is a big stressor, and if you do it as a team, and this is why we say to do it with everyone. Yes, it's going to benefit everyone. That's obviously it. But I think the ones who are struggling know that they're struggling, and if it's a team activity, there's a little bit of safety, and we're all in this fight together. Academics is something that we do as a team together from the standpoint of like. Even the you look at even the star students are going through and planning out their stuff. They're not going to leave me behind, and now we're not stressed out about it, right? We're not in that stressful mindset. So you're right.
so I would say the next thing that you do in this week is go through all the major assignments, all of the benchmark things that are due in all of their classes, make them write it out. And if they don't know, then part of their homework in this week is to go to their teachers and find out. Because if you do that, again, then that will make it clear for them, is it will make it easier for them to, hey, I could work on uniforms, but actually I really need to do this assignment instead. And then you say, okay, fine, we'll just have somebody else fill that in, versus I spent all my time trying to logistically get all this done, and then I totally neglected my schoolwork. And now, even though technically I'm eligible, my parents are mad that I'm failing, I'm sorry, it's a week before, I can't go. We've seen this happen.
So
Now practice.
now practice, right? In the podcast where we talked about practices and so on and so forth, we've already gone into depth on this. So I'm just going to do a quick recap for you so you understand. In the last month, we're switching to rehearsal practices. Rehearsal practices are exactly what they sound like. They are no longer practices devoted solely to getting better at the thing, getting better skills. A rehearsal is designed to simulate performance conditions and to build comfort. So if you're not building comfort, then we're not accomplishing the mission of a rehearsal practice, right? So how do we do this? Number one, we're going to try to run, and your mileage may vary based on how long you practice, whether you have a 2-hour block, a couple days a week, whether you're 5 days a week for 45 minutes. I will tell you though, in helping our clients schedule this for the last couple of years, and we have clients who literally sent us videos of all 4 events from both drill teams every morning after practice, and we help them create the format for the next rehearsal day for them. You are going to be able to, even in an hour time frame, though it will be fast, you can do all 4 events every single practice. And the reason why we're going to aim to do this is because in this last month, while everyone else is spending the entire time trying to fix someone's head moving in regulation drill, going to the shoulder
But
movements,
like we already talked about,
not worried about that.
you've already done all the improvements you're going to improve in this last month.
While that team has stressed themselves out for 2 hours about that, you've run 4 events, gone inside and worked on your uniforms even more. And so we're going to hit all 4 events every single time. The way that this is going to work is we are going to follow a very simple format. We're going to warm up as we should for the entire drill team practice. So stretch, get your cardio in, which we talk about with everyone. Per event, then, when we decide what the order of events is, at first we're just going to go in whatever order makes sense. So like for us, we had at the very end of the year, this past year, we had 2 students on the inspection team who had joined the inspection team at spring break time frame. They had not been on the drill team the entire year, and they weren't going to go from doing nothing after school or doing their other activities to then spending 2.5 hours after school or whatever craziness. So we did inspection first because it made sense. They could be there for the 30 minutes that inspection took, and then they could take off and go do whatever they needed to do after that. Your mileage may vary. In the time leading up to once the schedule is released, right? You're always going to be doing reg inspection first and X color guard second. The order that you go in that last week-ish, if they release the schedule within that last week, is the order in which you are going to perform those events. If it's inspection, then reg, and then color guard, then X, that's the order that you will go in. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to warm up for that particular event. What that means is basically getting the hands or the feet going. Go to our Instagram for color guard, for example. You can see what that looks like. Go to our YouTube, and you can see how the regulation practice was.
8 and 8s.
You're going to do the warm up. You are going to choose 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, not 3, not 1 plus the 5 other things that you discover while you're working on that 1. You are going to choose, and you have to choose in advance, 1 small thing that as a team, not individually, not CO is still moving her head. I'm going to throw my rifle across the deck because she will not stop moving her head. No, a team issue that you are going to address, i.e. the alignment on all of our right turns is a little bit wobbly. So we're going to spend, and I'm talking 8 to 12 minutes on that particular thing. And that's all you're going to get is 1 thing that can be improved as a team, not individually.
Right, like if you have doubles in your routine, not doing individual, timing the doubles, is we're going to spend 5 minutes.
Together and get them in time.
We're going to spend 3 minutes saying just the words. Then we're going to spend 2 minutes doing the words with just the arm movements. And then we're going to spend 3 minutes doing words plus arm movements with the rifles in our hands. And we're just going to see, are we timing those doubles the right way?
And this is going to be a real short podcast because the last thing you're going to do is you're going to go for a full run through of that event. Now, full run through with a camera rolling so that you can identify what the 12-minute time hack tomorrow is going to be in your next rehearsal.
You have to film every one of these run-throughs or it doesn't work.
This will also, and you'll put this out to the team, there are still going to be individual errors. And what we tell every team is if you can work out your own individual thing, then feel free to do that.
Because here's what you're going to do. Once you take that video and put it on your private YouTube, because that's super easy to do, just make the link
unlisted, or figure you guys, if you're a Google school, and put it on your drive or whatever you do.
Then commanders and instructors watch the run through to pick your thing to work for tomorrow.
hey, our doubles are better, but the report in is a little bit messy. We're gonna take 12 minutes tomorrow and hit the report in.
And then everybody on the team goes and watch themselves.
They're like, oh man, I'm still doing this little thing.
Because there's always can be individual improvement, but that's going to be on their own time, or they can be thinking about it during the routine. Is they're going to go and everybody watches, oh man, I could do this better, and then they work on that individually.
And then all you do is repeat that for all 4 events. You warm up, you isolate one team-related issue that the team could get better at today for 8 to 12 minutes.
We're not redoing counts.
Nope, no changes.
We're not adding skills or literally just
man,
work.
we need more. You know what I see all the time is like, oh, I saw a video on YouTube of our top competition and they're doing this. We need to add this. And then we start.
No, but this is like, oh, our manual says we need to do straight legs on the facing. I know we all know how to do it, but we're not all doing it. So for the next 5 minutes, let's make sure we're just all hitting those straight legs every single time we do this facing movement.
Easy stuff, right? We repeat that for all 4 events. Inspection, reg, or reg inspection, color guard X, or X color guard. That is your practice. And as you get more efficient with this, if you have a 2-hour practice, this will not take you 2 hours. This will take you an hour. It'll take you an hour 15, right? Now, if you have 45 minutes, this is what you will do in 45 minutes. It will
and it may be in that you may...
It be 2 events.
Right.
When you do 2 events the next day.
Which is fine. That's totally enough time.
When you do that, what you will find is that in the last month, you will have run more like complete run-throughs and focused your efforts more than any other school who is not doing this.
You mentioned why we do one run-through, right?
Let's talk about that.
And the reason why we are only going to do one, and this is so easy, and all of your students will tell you, is when you go to this final event, you only get one chance to run it in front of the judges anyway. I think what happens normally is at the end, people want to do what we call a stop and fix, is run it. Oh, there's a mistake. Stop. Let's fix it.
And they prioritize the fixing of the mistake as if the fixing of the mistake is going to get them.
Or we start practicing, we do the run, and then we watch for the mistakes, and then we tell them, and then we do another run through. The problem is that when you do that, it takes 3 or 4 run throughs to finally get the run through you're happy with. But when you get to your last competition, you don't get 3 or 4 run throughs to get your best run.
And what I would imagine is happening, and this is what we tell most of the groups, and they tend to agree, is that the run that they do at that final competition feels not like the third one that they did at practice.
But like
it
the
feels
first one.
Like the first one.
And so
then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we were always making that mistake, and our muscle memory is to make the mistake the first time. And we always tell schools, like, if we re-rolled the dice and you got 3 do-overs, I think we'd see the results change.
Right. And so for us, it's one run through, and it's one what we call comp run through, because what we want to teach the team in this last month is what do you have to do in your brain to figure out how to hit all the things we talked about and to have your best run once. And that's why we want to, if you have a longer practice, that hour and a half to 2 hours, we want to do it every day, because they get a chance every day to do their first run through and then make little micro adjustments and figure out what mindset thing you have to do. What do you have to do in your warm up, in your ritual? What do you have to do to basically put them in the right mindset so that when they do that one run at your final competition, it's their best run like it was at practice, and not your third or fourth run like that you've been, because they're not going to get that when they go to competition.
And if you get bogged down in the stop and fix, it's easy to lose your time, and then all of a sudden you don't get the color guard that day, and now the color guard's got to come back and do it again the next day, and then you have to make up for that time, so then the reg team doesn't get the time that they need.
Because remember, we're not going to make any credible gains in this last month, so our goal is to stop with what you have, unless you're, for some reason, finish what you have. Finish what you have, you can't go unfinished. But literally, like, you have like 2 or 3 more days, finish what you have if it's not done. But you're not going to make any credible gains in this last month. So our goal is to create comfort, because what do you always say about mistakes and judges forgiving and blah, blah, blah?
Oh, well, yeah, okay. So, first of all, the expectation that you need to be perfect isn't there. You've made that expectation on yourself.
And no one's perfect, and the judges know that.
If you have a perfect run, and sometimes it happens where there's literally nothing wrong, then you should just be so thankful that you got to experience that amazing. It's not a realistic goal to aim for. As a judge, and we've done a lot of judging over the years, and especially this season, how you recover from the mistakes and overcome the challenges that are presented to you in your performance is as impactful or more impactful than not making the mistake to begin with. And I think that in this rehearsal mindset where you only get one run through, if you get 3 run throughs, you get 3 chances to learn how to recover and not make the mistake. But like what we really want to get to in this last month is when there's a challenge and I'm too close to someone, or when somebody gets off step in front of me, or when someone marches out of their shoe, or any
Or if
number of
I go the
reasons.
wrong way,
If I turn
or
the wrong way,
I miss a command.
I was thinking about something else and I just missed something. In that moment, you've created an authentic way to work through that problem in a meaningful way that will actually show up. In other words, you are training not to do the thing perfectly. You are now training to adjust and recover seamlessly. And when you do that, we have never had, I'm going to talk about all the years of regulation
And color guard.
and color guard, where we have done very well competitively, and our students have been absolutely wonderful on the deck. But none of those performances were without. I'm thinking about 10 years ago, and you're at parade rest, and you call the platoon to attention, and the freshman on the corner of the block goes to dress right dress from parade rest, and you're like, when does that ever happen? But if you are in a mindset when something goes wrong, it's the end of the world. First of all, you're going to show that on your face. Second of all, we're not going to know how to seamlessly recover out of that. And when we do recover out of it, we will in the last month, you will have figured out scores of ways to get yourselves out of sticky situations that you put yourself in on
But
accident.
because I think for us, mistakes are not the enemy. Being inflexible and unable to recover is the enemy.
There's nothing worse than, and talking about judging, right? There's nothing worse than seeing someone make a mistake. And I can, first of all, if they don't do this, I can always tell, because you can tell when the mistake has been called out and then practice stopped for the mistake, because they'll always make an expression,
There's like a
even a
moment,
micro
or it's
expression.
like a moment of silence, or like you can feel the whole team think and just go, "Ugh."
And there's and then that deflating of the team where they think it's all over, and it's
Or
like,
they get angry and you're like, oh dear.
we were grading within the last semester, and a student made a mistake, and the student got so angry that it was a micro expression on their face, and then they proceeded to blow the next 3 things because they couldn't have their limbs under control. And I'm like, we had students come off the deck and start sobbing about things that I saw happen. And literally, because it's stressful, right? I mean, we've all been there. And the thing that I think people have to remember is, in this last month, when we're doing that one run through, your number one mission is not to do it perfectly. It's to recover out of
I'll
these
say, or even
situations.
like last year, and I won't say who, but like, there was a team who was doing an exhibition. It was probably the best exhibition we've seen ever, maybe. And, there was a drop at the end, and we went to go, talk to them, and they were all in the room sobbing. It's like, guys, that drop was only 5 points.
And the
And you just literally did probably the defining routine of this decade.
and my thing in that moment was like, if you are crying because you had like this amazing standard setting performance, then absolutely carry on. If you're so preoccupied with that one mistake that it blinds you from, and I'm all about having high standards and being tough on yourself, right? I think as drillers, that's what the sport teaches you. But the ability to recover out of a mistake and just roll with it. One of my best buddies when I was in high school, one of the best drillers of all time that I've ever spun with, his claim to fame wasn't that he could do anything. He could make anything look like he was doing it on purpose. And he'd come off the deck, he'd be like, I screwed that all up. And you're like, what are you even talking about? He's like, this whole section, I just made that up. And you're like, are you serious? He's like, I just had to go with it. And he was so good at recovering to make it look like it was on purpose. And the audience and the judges will respond to that. So I think in this last month,
When you do these run throughs, if it's like awful, horrible, and it's just completely bad, don't stop them. If the commander totally misses a section of the card and now they're backwards, don't stop them.
The commander
Figure
needs
it
to
out.
learn, because I'm going 2015.
Well, one, if they're hard on themselves, they will never make that mistake again.
And in competition, that can happen. That happened to our reg team in 2015. And the question becomes, what do you do when you realize you're facing the wrong side of the drill deck?
Well,
How do you overcome that?
Sam, we're not doing this process then, and there wasn't a way to recover.
No, we were doing 12-hour Saturday practices, to fix all these things. We were finishing the routines the week before, and there was a big long pause. And the commander did a great job of then figuring out how to recover out of it. But it was the downtime, right?
Right.
And I think that in this last month, if you create the recovery ability and train the recovery
Make them
ability,
figure it out. We get one run from now to the time we get to this last competition, and if it's horrible and it goes wrong and it's just awful, figure it out.
so that's kind of the
How do you
piece.
recover? How do you get back on time? How do you get back on the card? What do you do? And when they have a whole month and every day they get a chance to do that, when it happens on the floor and mistakes happen, then it's like, well, I know how to fix this.
It won't be the first time, I think, and the whole practice schematic is like, at the end, the weird stuff, it will not be the first time you encounter this problem.
And when they do that and when they encounter the problem and fix it like nothing, the judges are going to respond to that and see that confidence and that professionalism.
I want to give you a counter example, okay? I'm going to give you an example of how this will challenge us. I'm talking to instructors out there. This will challenge you. I'm talking about cadet commanders, especially the ones who were selected because they have high standards and they're very specific.
You're going to be stressed.
It's going to stress you out. 3 years ago, I don't know, 3 years ago.
Well, I guess 4 if you...
4 technically, coming up in this May. We had a cadet, and every time she would go to right shoulder or left shoulder, she would move her head. And we're in rehearsal mode a month out. And the instructor comes up to us and said, "Are we going to fix so-and-so's head? She moves it every single time." We're like,
leave her alone.
leave her alone. Leave her alone. It's not going to, whatever. The commander of the event comes up and says, "Are we going to fix, she's really moving her head quite a bit." We're like, leave her alone.
You had all year to fix her. You did not fix her. It is what it is. You leave her alone.
And so they did. And we go to the final competition. 15 count manual, right shoulder arms every single time. He's wearing a big old cover. Head moves all the way out the window.
0 comments from the judges.
No comments from the judges.
They win regulation.
And I think that the thing that worked was she knew she was moving her head. And I'm sure that every time she was a senior and she was a great cadet. I'm sure every time she practiced, she worked her best to not move her head. I'm positive of it.
But you know what? She had done so many runs by the time we got there with her head moving. Nobody said anything. It just is. It was what it was. And it wasn't a big deal.
And I think that the opposite, if the instructor or the commander or her teammates had gotten onto her every practice and tried to fix it in the last month, the stress level goes through the roof. And for someone who's still making a mistake like that, an individual ticky-tacky kind of mistake, there's probably some kind of you don't want to put them in a mental state where they're going to stress themselves out because they think if they don't do that one little nitty detail, they're going to let their whole team down. And I think that unfortunately, drill teams tend to do the opposite. This model is designed to get you to not focus on those things.
And when it looks like it's just a mistake and you know how to fix it, the judges are more likely to just look at that and start to make excuses for you. The next year after that, we had on 15 count, we had, I think he was the middle back person. They got
left shoulder, the went to present, and then had to recover, something like that.
They were gonna go to order and they missed the present or something. Either way, it was clearly and obviously there. It was right in front of the judges. They made the mistake, and yet the team still won. And because he didn't freak out, he just waited.
It just looked like someone who at some point in the past made that mistake and figured out how to adjust and recover out of it and end with the rest of the team. And I think that we sell ourselves short when you think that the goal is to be perfect and to be robots and to be inhumanly good. And that's what you strive for. First of all, it's not a goal you can accomplish. Second of all, it's not what top performers attempt to do. They try to have the best performance, but they're also trying to be resilient and adaptable and look like they've been there before. And all those kinds of things we can establish in this last month. So as it concerns the practice piece of the puzzle, that's what we should be doing. One cycle of every event, every single day. And again, be creative with that. But that's going to get us down the road to the point where we have that kind of comfort.
Yep. And just one more personal anecdote, because I've been on the floors. Learn, especially if there's a mistake that happens commonly, figure out how to do that as a failsafe and how to recover out of that. My junior year when we were doing color guard and we got to sling, we had basically whenever you go up out is we use 2 counts to clip. And yeah, like the 2 counts we knew that was basically the recovery point. That year, I think I was left guard, the other person was the right guard. Her sling got tangled up, right? And so it took her, a few seconds to fiddle with it and undo it. But because we had practiced that, is when she popped out there and I counted in my head 1, 2, and we clicked back in to go on and we were perfectly in sync. We won color guard that year by 56 points. And I think for a lot of times is, oh no, we messed up sling, it's the end of the world, we might as well just get back on the bus and go home. We practiced that.
When you get out of time with your partner, you just stop and start again. Well, if you do that, you never create the moment where you learn.
But we stopped that in that last little bit of time. Is what do you do when the mistake happens? When you have a recovery plan and you're able to recover, that is oftentimes more impressive and it does not hurt your performance. if you can recover, and as long as it's only like 1 or 2 mistakes.
So that's your mission for this last month. Again, check out the other podcasts, shed some light on this, but I think this is the most,
Go to rehearsals, stop
yeah,
fixing things,
it's probably the most important thing you
get
can do.
yourself organized, get your schoolwork. This last month should be cool, calm, and collected, because the goal is that when you go to this last competition, do exactly at the competition like you've done at home. Don't try harder. Don't change anything. Don't be trying to iron your uniforms the night before in your, in your hotel room. Don't, this is the last performance, give it all you got. No, give exactly what you've been giving your practice for this last month. And if you do that, you are more likely to have the run that you want to have, and that's going to show all the work that you've put in, and you're actually going to be able to like do the things you practice.
Yeah, I think some of my fondest memories of the last month, it's just
It's happy.
it's winding down, like chilling out, like it's
It's
practice.
relaxed. You're jamming. You're enjoying the time.
You're only out at the practice deck, and in Texas we're outside, and it's getting warm out. We're only out there for an hour 15, an hour 20, and then we're going back to the classroom to get stuff done.
We're doing more inspection practice. Maybe in that last hour, because your uniforms are done, is then you spend that time answering questions.
Q&A stuff. To me, the vibe.
Or you go home. Hey guys, we did a great job. We got
Fridays.
everything done.
Fridays.
Hey, go home. Oh, we're gonna get pizza. We're gonna bring food. We're gonna do a movie.
Drill team picnic, drill team movie up.
Don't do fun things that will hurt you.
Yeah, no.
But hey, we got everything we needed done. Let's hang out together and just enjoy this last little bit of time before the season's done. We lose our seniors. We start the new school year. Like, this could be a fun time, or this could be like the worst time of your life.
And I think that people put themselves in the hell of their own creation because they put the emphasis in the wrong place. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how to reframe the final moments of your season. And if you're an instructor, I think you owe it, or you're a coach, you owe it to your students to give them a wonderful end of their year. They will not leave and go on to the rest of their lives, remembering how to keep their heels aligned in the last.
And if you're an instructor, you're probably going to need to help facilitate this. If you just tell them all these things and then expect them to do it, they're probably not going to meet your expectations.
I'm just going to say, as the last piece of the puzzle about this, just to dispel the myth, at the top level of national competition, the students are doing everything in their power to do the things and what is in their power to perform the tasks of organizing, to get good at the drill, to lead the team and maintain good order and discipline on the team.
And when you're lucky, you might get a kid who's like really good at like keeping the time and like understanding deadlines and timelines, but that's rare.
An adult is the one who has facilitated every single top level national championship level drill team. An adult has facilitated that.
We have
given their commanders and their leaders
But if the adult is that you have 3.5 weeks. Okay, this been 3 days. Where are we, guys? Meet together. Come talk to me. Where are we at? Okay, guys, we're behind here. Let's pick it up here. Let's do this. Let's recover here. The adult's got to be the one at the top moving the timeline and the pacing. The adult has to control the pacing of all of this.
And I think that people like to think because junior ROTC is cadet led, and of course it is. And we found out in the last 3 years how much cadets can do, how much students can accomplish that was once taken on by adults. Because I will also tell you as a closing that for many, many years, adults were doing most of the work for the teams at the top. And it was not misguided from the standpoint that they wanted to give their cadets the most amount of space to focus on their job, which is the drill. In a modern world, we're not taking a lot of that stuff on. We're trying to find out what the cadets can do and give everything that they can do to them. But you know what?
But you don't take your hand off the process. Let them do it. Trust but verify, right? Is trust that they're going to do it, but you should be checking in at the end of each class period if they're doing stuff. You should be throughout the process. Hey, how's it going? Where are we on this? And you should keep your finger on it.
And if the way that you keep the finger on the pulse is to come outside and talk about mistakes or talk about this is bad, this is bad, this is bad.
Man, you guys are useless. You can't do anything right. I told you how to do this. Why haven't we got it done yet?
We're a week away from the final meet. Why can't we have our alignment? If that's how you're interacting with your students in this final moment, that is, and I can guarantee it because we have adopted, not literally, but many alumni spanning decades from top programs. And I will tell you that one of the things that they will remember is how they are treated and what is important to you in this last month. And if you get this right, you will have a legacy in their lives that is very lasting.
And if not, you will be that person that they look back on and maybe don't talk about.
So, last month type stuff, think about it. A lot of it is just trusting the process and giving it a shot. Give it a shot and see how it goes for you. See if you're more calm, you're more relaxed, you have a better time. To close things out, we have a couple more questions, and these questions also come from our junior RTC instructor group. We put it out there of like, hey, what questions do you have about national level type things, like at the highest level? And these questions, the last time we answered them were like event specific. These questions are awesome. These questions more pertain to like, now that we're at the end of the season, I think what can we be thinking about going into the next season? Because of course, Nick Saban is playing in the college football championship game and thinking about his recruiting for the next season and how it's going to start. Because once you're at the end, the real secret is once you're at the end, you're never at the end. You're just at the beginning. This is the start of your next year. If you are truly competitive and you are, let's say, an instructor or a coach, this is not the end. This is just the beginning of the next cycle. So these are all things that we can think about. First question is, one question I have is, how do I maintain constant participation even after the drill season? Have to practice early in the morning because most of the cadets have to leave right after school. And I think we're actually seeing, so for this particular instructor, we're seeing more and more before school practice is like the East Coast is 100% locked in on that.
Yeah.
The Midwest is like 90% locked in on that. Before school practice is kind of the way between schedules and families and economy and all that kind of thing. So what are some things that somebody could do to keep their students engaged for the end of the season and then obviously after this as well as the school year
Okay.
itself?
So there's a couple things you can do. One, decrease practice time. You don't need to go every day at this point now, once you're at the end of the season and like you're done with your competitions. This would be a great time to work new skills.
I do. One of some of the best memories are like when you go to like, let's say you're on a 5 day a week schedule, right? And you go to like twice a week, Tuesday, Thursday for an hour and a half or something. And you just get out in the grass and you do new stuff, you learn new things.
This is time to rework routines. Like, hey, we really wanted to do this. This is your time to be creative. Hey, we didn't like this part of the routine. We're so bored of this beat or this rhythm. Let's make something new.
You come in and have a good time, make up some new stuff and test it out.
If this is your time where if you've got like understudies or alternates, this is your time to like spin them up. Let's work your skill level and bring you up so that at the start of the next year you're ready to hop in.
And one of the big things that we tell teams, and we were just talking to a school about this when we were training last week, is let the seniors, guess what? As soon as you are done with your last competition of the season, go enjoy the rest of your time.
You can come back, but like honestly, go away so the next people can the next leaders can start to establish themselves.
Of course, hopefully you love your teams and you want to be around them.
I mean, if you want to come to practice, then just sit in the background.
Sit in the back and then let the rising commander and the rising seniors take charge of the process of setting their school year up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times that alone will help build the momentum for the next season because it's like, oh, I finally get a chance to put my spin on this. I've for 3 years I've wanted to put this move in the routine, and now I can kind of play with that and see if it's going to work with no pressure. No pressure.
If you've got any okay, this is really probably overkill, but like if you have any summer camps, like BMTs or CLCs or any of that kind of stuff, one of the things that we would do is basically the people who are the commanders and the like upcoming leaders for the next years, we would practice for those, like for those summer camps. Like if there was like a drill card that you're gonna have to do for like a final drill type of thing, is this is also the time where like your leaders can like train and like practice their command voices and practice and like if they've got any like regular students like they're not drill team students,
maybe now's the time to pull them in.
if they're nervous about it, like you could basically let them start like teaching and training. It's really just a good time to let your team practice the skills that they're gonna need going into the next year.
And I think that not only is that going to maintain the participation because it's really going to be and there's some people that probably can't make those practices anymore.
And that's okay.
And that's fine. But you're also going to find out
Maybe
who the people are, who the people are that are going to show up and can they bring in anyone at the I'll never forget we had a couple of seniors on the team or juniors on the team who showed up after the national event for us was done. And they started coming out to practice and they're like, oh, I saw them working on, I think I can do this next year, and teach them how to spin, teach them how to march, teach them how to do stuff.
Yeah, so this was a great time where if you had any people who were like on the edge and thinking about it, is like do small skill camps or small skill sessions where
Everyone
like
comes out this morning. We're gonna teach everyone how to do a basic rifle spin. If you like to learn how to spin a rifle, even if you don't want to be on the team, maybe consider getting up 45 minutes earlier and coming to practice.
but if you can find ways to basically open it up to your non-drill team, like your classroom students, and like create things where they can get involved, is you might end up recruiting some of those people going into next year and basically growing the team before you even get your freshmen for the next year.
And the next question goes right along with this, and I love it when things work out. In exhibition drill, let's say you don't have the talent in the team to do a lot of impressive rifle flipping or tossing. What's a good replacement to try and still get those aerial difficulty points? And here is the part of the season where you really work this out, right? We're a little bit deep in the season at this point to change it for the final meets of the year, whatever. Got it. Um, Gone, I think, are the days where you have a team of 12 people that can all do exactly the same level of skills.
At least right now,
I think it'll build up over time. But honestly, at the same time,
it's not necessary.
no, it's not necessary. The way that you can do this, one, is continue to hone the skills of the individuals who have those skills, but instructors in particular, be very mindful that those skills are applicable to the team. Skills that are not applicable to the team are like hell's whips and tosses where you throw it up, zycotics where you throw it up, turn underneath it and catch it behind your back. Centino tosses where you throw it and then you spin around 3 times and you catch it on the other side. Like, not skills for solo, skills that will benefit the team, because all of those skills that I just mentioned are awesome when you stick them, and they are literally dangerous if you do not.
But also, like, that can also just stay in the sports spinning stuff because that doesn't really benefit, like, the military style drill we're doing with the teams.
So we're talking about, like, if you have cadets who can throw doubles or who can throw triples, if you have cadets who can throw shoulder tosses or have more technical type abilities with their movements. One, the after the season time is a great time. I remember specifically 3 years ago, one of my favorite practices ever was we taught a basic loft over the head, kind of K aerial sort of a deal, but over the head, and everyone got a chance to kind of try that. This is when this is the after the competition's done is the time when you start to look at upping everyone's skill level and identify who's got skills and see if they have anything that they can start to teach. When you go to build it into your routine, and this is something that we are very passionate about, right? If you are in band, someone is the first chair and gets the solo. Best French horn player is going to have a solo. Not every French horn player is going to be expected to play the lead part of that instrument for the entire time they're in the band. That's literally not pedagogically sound, yet that's for years and years. That's what we expected from drill teams. You're a freshman, figure out how to throw triples. You're a senior, you're going to throw the same triple that you threw when you were forced to do it.
And that doesn't mean you're not going to have freshmen who aren't like savants and can't figure out triples. You probably still are.
You probably are going to have those people. But what I'm saying is we're not living in a world where I'm going to try to force that on the team. So what we're going to do is we're going to choreograph in such a way that we highlight the skills of those people, and it's got to be
This is not going to be everyone just stops and one single talented person does like 30 seconds or 45 seconds or a minute of drill by themselves.
The whole team goes to a ceremonial parade rest, and one kid throws a hell's whip.
Or a tandem.
Or a tandem does 2 hell's whips next to each other. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about building and creating moments where the highlight of a unison or split sequence is the moment where everyone drops to the knee and your 3 really talented cadets throw a triple, or your 2 really talented cadets builds up to this point where everyone else then explodes out and makes room for them in the center so that they can do their toss in the middle, their cool exchange.
And then they join right back in.
And then they join right back with the team, and it becomes this. I mean, anyone watching this has watched dance, has watched other kinds of arts where featured performers do something.
But it's not like a big, like, whole, like, long section of...
No, the thing that I will say is a greater, the thing that, and as a lifelong armed exhibition driller turned choreographer, designer, turned teacher, trainer, at the end of the day, I'm still an armed driller. Like, that's who I am. The thing that is offensive to me that tells you that we've done this incorrectly is when the whole team stops and one kid just goes nuts, because what it tells you is, wow, that kid is super talented. Why didn't he teach his peers? And so that's why it's got to ideally be more than one person. And that's why the whole team has got to be involved leading up to the moment. You feature the moment and then you move out of it. And I think that would go a long way to building up that aerial difficulty. I know that when I judge personally, I can't speak for any other event with any other judges. We live in 2025 where we see teams all over the place. If we're grading and you make a clear attempt to choreograph uh, highlighting some featured performers, that will obtain the aerial difficulty for the team. You will not obtain it, and you may in fact suffer in that military flavor or tastefulness arena when it's just the soloists doing their own thing in the center. So hopefully that gives you an idea. End of the season is a great place to work that stuff at. That's what we got. It's the end of the drill season. Best of luck. We're rooting for everyone. The ideal goal is that everyone has their best performance, whatever that means for them, at the final events.
And then whatever the placements are, it's off of everybody's best, and then you can be happy with wherever you are is where you probably are meant to be.
That's such a nice, stress-free, awesome place to
If
be.
you did your best and you placed where you placed, there's nothing else you could have done.
Right? So we'll see you guys on the next one. I don't know how long it'll be. But in the meantime, if you have questions, we'd love to feature more questions from instructors and from cadets and whoever else. Find us on social media at Drill Team Dynamics, all one word on Instagram. Visit our website, jrtcdrillteamtraining.com. You can get in touch with us there via email or any other way that is listed. And until next time, we'll see you out there.